Hey everyone, Wednesday live at 5. How is everyone? Happy summer. Happy August 5th. I can't believe it's August 5th already. It is crazy. I'm at the beach. We're on our summer vacation. We're going to be talking about vacations tonight. We're going to be talking about the amazing Marcy Stewart and how she went on vacation and her business still ran. I'm going to wait a few minutes for everyone to get on. So, for those of you that don't know me, my name is Cheryl Hadra. I am the founder of Sisters Who Scale. I help cleaning business owners grow their revenue, scale, get out of the field, get profits, get systemized, and grow their cleaning businesses. And tonight we're going to talk about, well, I have a maid service from the lovely Boston, Massachusetts area called Made Bright. I started the company myself. I didn't have any money. I had a poverty mindset, all kinds of stuff. And I grew it organically. Proud to say, grew it organically to over $900,000 a year. Organically. And I'm proud to say that my company is ranked #1 on ChatGPT in 5 of the 13 cities that we service. So soon to be 13 cities. Pretty excited about that. And the way I found that out is that a client actually told me that's how they found me. So I didn't even know I was ranked #1 or my company was ranked #1 until a prospect who turned into a client actually told me. So if you're here for the first time, welcome. I go live every single Wednesday, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with a different topic on the cleaning industry. Could be pricing, could be hiring, could be mindset, and it also could be my Maids Who Made It podcast, which I rotate with the guests about once a month, once every 6 weeks. So if you haven't subscribed, show me some love, hit the subscribe button, and you will get notified when I go live. So tonight we're going to be talking about the great Marcy. I hope she's here. If you're watching this on replay or live, say hi. Let me know where you're from. I always like to see people's names pop up on the right hand side so I don't feel like I'm talking to no one. So I would appreciate that. So I'm going to be talking about Marcy Stewart. She is a current coaching client of mine in the Drop the Mop program. Okay. And before I say anything tonight, I want you to hear what I'm about to say. This is a quote. This is a quote from Marcy. She's from Ohio, and her business is called Stewart Signature Cleaning. And she went on vacation to Florida to visit her daughter and the grandkids a couple of weeks ago for a whole week. And she posted in the Sisters Who Scale private Facebook group, quote, I just want to say this whole being on vacation and still having money coming in is awesome. That is all. End quote. That is what her quote was. And some of you may have seen it actually, right? That was it. That was the whole message. She wasn't trying to make a point. She wasn't posting a testimonial for me, nothing. She was just living her life and had to tell someone. She was probably sitting on the beach with a phone in her hand or a drink in her hand or a little bit of both and saying, God, this is awesome. And when I read that, I had to stop what I was doing because I remember exactly where Marcy was 4 months ago when we first started working together. She was cleaning most days, good 4 to 5 days a week. And she was not a woman who could disappear for a week and not think twice about her business. So tonight I'm going to tell you what changed for her to make that happen. Not the mindset stuff, the actual specific and concrete things she did. Tell me, all of you, who wants to go on a vacation and still have their business run? Amen and hallelujah to that. Right? Amen and hallelujah to that. Put in the comments. Hi, Helen. Put in the comments who wants to have their business run and take a vacation while the money comes in. Because that's real important. You don't realize how important that is until it actually happens. Okay? So tonight we're going to talk about it. So here's a question I want you to all actually sit with and don't just nod your head at. If you disappeared for 7 days right now, no phone, no laptop, nothing, be honest, does your business keep running? Do your clients still get cleaned? And does the money still come in? Or are you the one that's holding the whole thing together? Because The truth that no one tells you is when you start a cleaning business, most of us didn't build a business. What we did is we built a really demanding job for ourselves, that of which we happen to own. And there's a big difference in that. A business that runs without you in the room is a business. A job stops the second you stop showing up. 4 months ago, Marcy had a job. She had 5 employees, mostly residential, decent revenue, but if she wasn't reachable, things would go awry, things would get wonky, things would fall apart, right? Does that sound familiar to anyone? So last week, Marcy was in Florida, and her clients didn't even know she was gone because she is starting to build her company where she no longer needs to be there all the time, where the clients don't expect to see her face all the time. That is very important. That's not luck. That's not, oh, she must have got easier clients. That is 4 specific things she built in specific order over 4 months. And I'm going to give you them tonight. The real ones, not the watered down ones. So what did Marcy actually do? The 4 levers, if you want, right? The 4 levers. So she raised her prices, number 1. She trained staff to clean without her, not just call out because Marcy's gone, right? She trained her staff to handle crisis if one came up. And she built the right routines so she wasn't bleeding labor without being on every job. So she in turn is becoming the CEO of her own business and no longer the bottleneck. So we're going to go through all 4 prices. If you want a pen, paper, anything, definitely take it. So number 1, she raised her prices. I'm not going to pretend this is some clever secret. It's not. It's the most obvious one in your entire business, and it's the one that most of you struggle with. So here's why it matters for this particular story. Marcy could not afford to hire better people at her old prices. That's the reason. You ever say to yourself, I can't afford to hire? You know why? Because your prices aren't high enough. Most owners in the beginning are too cheap to fund the team they need. Yes, I'm going to say it again. Most owners are too cheap to fund the team they need. So they get stuck every day. Every business owner who tells me I can't afford to hire help, and I want you to hear this because I hear this all the time. You can't afford not to raise your prices first. Okay? Marcy did about a 15 to 20% raise on all of her clients, and most of them stayed. Most of them except one that she wanted not to say anyways. So here's what I tell people when they're scared to raise their prices. You are not raising your price. You are correcting a mistake you made that you didn't know you were doing yet, right? Every single one of us started underpricing. So did I. Not because we were bad at business, because none of us knew what the work actually costs to do correctly. Insurance, supplies, gas, paying someone enough so they don't quit in 3 weeks. Not overpaying someone, a big one that I see. We priced ourselves like we were still figuring it out, because we were. So when you raise your price now, you're not gouging anyone. You're not being unfair. You're finally charging what the job actually costs. And the thing that you don't understand or no one hasn't told you yet is that the client who leaves over a price increase was never the client keeping your business alive. They were the client keeping you stuck. So I ask my coaching clients when they're stuck on this, what does it cost you to stay at this price for another year? Not what does it cost you to raise it, okay? What does it cost you to stay at that price for another year? What does it cost not to raise it? It costs burnout. It costs turnover. It costs not being able to hire and give yourself a break. So you doing the job yourself because you can't afford to pay someone else is going to run you into the ground, for lack of a better word. That's the real cost. So the client that complains over a $10 raise isn't the one you want. That client you had stuck at the same rate for 3 years, that's the expensive client. And the fear is always the same. Every cleaning business owner says to me, I'll lose clients. Marcy didn't lose any clients when she raised her prices. You know what she gained? She gained room to actually pay someone to stay. She gained room to onboard new clients that were willing to pay her elevated prices. So she was actually creating space for them, right? Does that make sense? Hey Sonia, how are you? How are you? If you're on here for the first time, say hi. Let me know where you're from. Lever number 2. Marcia trained her staff to clean without her, and no calling out because she was gone. So here's the test a lot of people that are watching this video would not pass. Not can my team clean a house? Can my team clean a house on a day I am not reachable? I'm on vacation. Are they going to panic? Is the day going to fall apart? What is that going to look like? Marcy went to visit her daughter and her grandkids. She did not want to be bothered when crisis calls, right? Or little questions. Let's not talk about crisis. Let's just talk about little questions. A code, a lockbox code, a key. Are we cleaning the pantry and the kitchen? You know, stupid things like that you don't want to be called for when you're on vacation. So what happens in most cleaning businesses, when the owner is unreachable, even for one day, even for half a day, somebody calls out. Somebody forgets items in a client's house. You might get a complaint because they're rushing. Something goes sideways on purpose or not, because the accountability has never been put into the team, because you were the person always standing over the team, always the bottleneck. You created a monster of them depending on you. So something goes sideways on purpose or not, okay? It doesn't matter. You just never put the accountability in the team. So what Marcia and Marcy, I call it's Marcia, but I call her Marcy. What Marcy and I worked on, or have been working on, we broke that. So her team didn't call out once when she was in Florida for 5 days. She was in Florida for a week. They didn't call out Monday through Friday at all. Not because they're saints, because she built the accountability into the team, not into her presence. And there's a big difference. And that's what everyone struggles with when they're trying to go from cleaning 5 days a week to not cleaning at all. So here's the shift that has to happen for that to happen. And it's the one thing that I spend real time on in Drop Them Up. Right now, in most of your businesses, you are the accountability system. If you're watching, things get done right. You all have to remember that I've lived everything I teach, I've lived and I've experienced, okay? If you're not there, things slide. The teams are going faster. You're getting a complaint. They're missing a half bath, okay? You built a business where the only thing holding the standards together is your presence. And that is a recipe for burnout, disaster, and for you to close your doors. That has to change. The accountability cannot live in you as a person anymore. It has to live inside the team. It's the standards, it's the expectations, and it's how work is set up to run, whether you're there, standing there, or not. And I know what some of you are thinking, but if I'm not checking, how do I know what got done? Doesn't that kill you? It kills you, right? And that's the exact question that Marcy had. That's the same thing I went through years ago. And the answer is not trust blindly and hope. It's a specific way of building your team, a set of standards and guidelines and checklists. So it doesn't need your eyeballs on it 24/7. That's not a mindset shift. That is a system. Okay? And it's one of the first things we build inside Drop Them Up. Because the truth is if your team only performs when you're watching, you don't have a trained team. You have an audience. And you can't take a vacation from an audience. If your team only shows up when you're watching, you don't have a team. You have people working for your attention, not the job. And that's a hard sentence, but you need to hear what I'm telling you, okay? Does that make sense? Hello, everyone. I'm going to say hello. Hi, everyone. Do you like my earrings? Aren't they cool? Little dragons. My little dragonflies. Lever number three. Lever number three. Marcy trained her staff to handle a crisis if one come up. I don't want any of you to be called all the time. So this is the piece that not a lot of people think about until it's happening, until they're in it, and it's a whirlwind. A client complaint. It could be a no-show. It could be a broken vacuum. I had a broken vacuum today in one of my teams. A key that doesn't work. A client who's upset about something. In most businesses, when that happens, someone picks up the phone and calls the boss. But what if the boss isn't available? So Marcy, over time, train her people to handle things like that without dialing her first, not ignoring it. They handled it at the level they could, and they only escalate to the top dog when they actually need her. So let's talk about what actually happens when something goes wrong on a job. So right now, in a lot of your businesses, everything goes to you. It flows to you. A client's upset about a missed spot, you get the call. Someone's key doesn't work, you get the call. A team member doesn't know what to do, you get the call. You are the emergency line for every single problem, big or small, all day long. I worked with someone in New York, Angie Hardy, amazing, Crystal Cleaning, awesome, I love her. Everyone called her 24/7. Why? Because she created it that way. She didn't know, like many of us in the beginning, right? We started, she created it. Everything flowed through her, all the details, everything. The poor girl couldn't take a break, right? Now she made some major changes a couple years ago now. It's been a couple years, and she's changed everything in her life, and I'm so proud of her, and that no longer happens. So that's not sustainable. That's death by 1,000 cuts, and it's not actually necessary, okay? So the distinction that changes, rather, is not every problem has to go through you, and you need to get that through your head and understand that. Most problems need someone who knows it's okay to handle on their own, and what actually has to come to the owner and what actually doesn't need to come to the owner. Let me give you an example. Let's talk about a broken vacuum. Let's talk about my team. One of my teams was in the field today. Vacuum just broke. First house. I had tested them all myself. They all worked this morning. It broke. So what did that team leader do? Instead of calling me and panicking, she said, the vacuum broke at, I forget the first house they were at. The vacuum broke at this house. We're going to use the homeowner's vacuum. And she said, can you contact the rest of the houses on my route today and see if they have vacuums? So instead of her freaking out and thinking it's end of days, she acted. She started to use the homeowner's vacuum. I contacted the other two to make sure they had a vacuum inside. They used their vacuum and vacuumed, rather than them going back to the office, which was half an hour away, being on the clock, going to get a vacuum, coming back, kind of that chaos. She's like, we're going to use homeowner number one's vacuum. Then I made the calls. It was no problem. They used homeowner number two, homeowner number three. They handled it, right? With my help, obviously, but they handled it. That is what you want to teach them to do. It's not crisis. It's not end of days. Vacuum goes down. Not a big deal. What do you do? Find another vacuum. Every homeowner has a vacuum in their houses, right? So you don't want everything to land on your desk like that, right? That you want to teach your people to troubleshoot. That's a perfect example. Vacuums go down all the time. Extension cords go down all the time. How would you avoid an extension cord breaking? Bring two. Bring two. I've even had some of my girls ask the homeowner for an extension cord to finish the home. Not a big deal. Get it finished. Get it done. You don't waste too much time, right? So that's what I'm trying to get through you. You want to teach them to be able to handle crisis. Sometimes they're not going to be able to handle all the crisis, right? But a lot of what's landing on your desks right now, it doesn't belong there, right? A supply that ran out. There shouldn't be a supply that ran out. The client wants to reschedule. Someone's running 15 minutes behind. None of that really needs the owner if you have the right systems in place, if you have the right technology in place, things like that, where you can contact the client. So the businesses that can survive a week without the owner aren't the businesses where nothing ever goes wrong. I'm not saying nothing ever goes wrong. They're the businesses where the team knows the difference between I can fix this myself and not go to the owner with it, or this one goes to her. That's not luck. That's not a magically responsible team. That is something that you build as the leader on purpose. You have to empower them to think on their own. And that's difficult sometimes because employees want to be told what to do. But this is the difference between a team that can operate and a team that can only execute on your when you say so, right? Execution means I can clean the house you told me to clean. Operating means I can handle what comes up while I'm doing it, while I'm cleaning that, right? Marcia's team could operate. That's why Florida was possible without any phone calls. And the money kept coming in the account. That's what we like, right? That is what we like, okay? Level 4, she built the right routines. This is very, very important. Marcy became the CEO, the leader, not the bottleneck. This is the other one that ties the other 3 together. And it's less about one decision and more about a pattern she repeated for 4 months. Every time something only worked because she personally touched it, she asked, how do I make this not need me? And then she built the routine that answered that. That's the difference between an owner and a CEO. An owner is on every job and every decision, and they answer every question. And you may feel wanted, needed, empowered by this, but it's going to bite you in the ass if you keep doing it. So a CEO builds the thing that answers the question when she's not in the room. Marcy didn't stop working. She stopped being the thing that the business couldn't run without. That's not a small shift. That's the whole shift. And it's one of the, one of the ones that most owners never make because it means letting go of being needed, right? Which for a lot of us is the hardest part of this whole entire business. Not the cleaning, actually letting go. It's scary because you're like, my team doesn't need me anymore. My teams do not call me or text me or text my husband unless they absolutely need us. I'm going to talk to you about what happened this morning. One of my teams in the company cars got rear-ended on the way to the first house. That's a call they needed to make. They didn't need to ignore that. They called me and I said, I'll be there in 10 minutes. I was still in the area. And I went, and it was a tiny little fender bender. It was nothing. It wasn't even a fender bender. It was just like paint scratch. But that is when they would need to call an owner. That's a prime example. Obviously, the car got hit, right? It was fine. We went on. Crisis solved. We were there 10 minutes. The owner didn't even want to go through insurance. He goes, I'll pay for it out of pocket. I'm like, beautiful. Give me your information. So just as a CEO and a leader, you're always solving problems. I want to let you all know that my cortisol levels did not raise at all during that particular thing. I don't let my cortisol levels raise. I'd be 300 pounds if I let my cortisol levels raise every time a crisis happened, right? So there's so many things you need to solve as an owner, that stuff like that. Like, that, we're good, 10 minutes off, next appointment. So that's how things need to roll, okay, in your business. So getting back to Marcy, she didn't stop working. She just created her business that could run without her. And that's really, really important. So the part that people miss is Marcy didn't do these 4 things randomly whenever she felt like it. There was an order to this. This was very strategic. Pricing came first because it funded everything after it. Training her staff to work without her came second because without that, nothing else was possible. And training them to handle a crisis came third. Because independence without judgment means small problems become bigger ones while she's gone. And no one wanted any of that to happen. And then the routines that made her the CEO and the boss instead of the bottleneck. Because now there was actually a team worth building routines around. So if you try and build routines before your people can handle a crisis, you're building a system that's going to break the first time something goes wrong. If you try and hand off independence before you've raised your prices, you don't have the margin to pay for people good enough to earn that trust, right? So things are in a very strategic order. The order matters here. And this is the exact sequence that we build in order inside Drop Them Up, inside Sisters Elite, my graduate program, because doing these things out of order is why most systemizing attempts fail. So I want to reframe something for you. We treat taking a vacation like it's a reward, something you've earned after working hard enough. And I want you to think about it differently starting tonight. A vacation isn't a reward, a vacation is a diagnostic. It tells you the truth about what you've actually built or have not built yet. If you can't take a vacation, if the idea of being unreachable for a week, for 5 days, for a weekend makes your stomach drop, that's not you being a hard worker. That's the information you need that's telling you you are the bottleneck. And what you have right now is a job wearing a business costume. You don't own a business, you have a time consuming job. So Marcy's trip to Florida wasn't reward for good behavior. It was proof of what she's been working on for 4 months with me actually worked under real conditions without a safety net. So that's the test. So ask yourself, could your business pass that? Could it pass that right now, right? Now, what's the honest timeline to be able to make that happen? So I'm not going to tell you what happened overnight. Marcy's been in business for a while, so she had skills when she came to drop them up, right? So I'm going to tell you the truth. So I'm not going to say it happened overnight. It didn't. If I told you, I'd be lying to you, right? And you'd find out eventually anyways. And I like to tell the truth to everyone. So it took her 4 months. That's how long it took Marcy to go from being the, somewhat of the bottleneck in her business to being able to take that vacation in Florida while her clients still got cleaned and the money came in. 4 months isn't nothing, but it's also not someday. It's not when I'm bigger, or it's not when things calm down. I got news for you. Things never going to calm down in your cleaning business. Things are just going to get bigger and more clients and more staff and more insurance and more social media and all that stuff. The bigger your company gets, the more expensive it gets to run. It's all how you handle it as a CEO. Can you solve problems without your cortisol levels rising? If they can't, you need to change your ways. So Marcy didn't do this alone. She didn't figure it out by guessing. She followed the system. She showed up with me every single week on Thursday night when I have dropped them up. Showed up to class. She's never missed a class except one time when she was in Florida. And I let it go because she was in Florida. And I was proud of her. That's not a small detail. That's what consistency does. When you show up for yourself, you don't make excuses for yourself and say why you can't come to the class and blah, blah, blah. I'm not the coach for that. I'm not the coach for excuses. I'm the coach for results. I don't care what your problem is, what your story is. I don't care how weak, strong, whatever. Okay? You want results, you come to me. That's it. So what I'm going to leave with you tonight is this. I gave you all 4 levels, info. Pricing is the one you can start on this week. Look at your price, look at your clients and see who needs to come up, right? If you need help, you message me. The other 3, building real independence into your team, training them to handle a crisis, and building the routines to turn you into a CEO instead of a bottleneck. Those are things you build alone off. Those are the things I can't talk tonight because I need water. Those are the things you cannot build alone off of a 30-minute training. Those take structure. They take a community of people doing it alongside of you, which is exactly what I built Drop Them Up for. That's literally the room where we take business owners through the exact sequence in order with each other, watching and doing it together, but holding each other accountable. So Marcy didn't build this success by watching one training and hoping for the best. She built it by being in the room with me every week for 4 months. So the question is, it's not whether you can build a business that doesn't need you. Marcy's story just proved you can. The question is whether or not you're willing to do it in order, to do the work, to show up for yourself for 4 months. The program is 6 months, but she did it in 4, instead of hoping for a shortcut that doesn't exist. If you are ready to drop them up, message me, comment, drop them up in the group, fill out a form on my website, and I will see you there. I hope this was helpful. I was so excited. I was so excited for Marcy when she posted that message in the group that I decided to do a training about someone else tonight, someone else's success. So Marcy Stewart, you'll see her in the group. Congratulations. I'm so proud of you. And I will see you all soon on the next Live at 5. All right. Bye.